which means you're supposed to go through all of your old footage and pull out the ums and the ahs and all that sort of stuff that you cut out in your first time around and string them together into something funny, but I'm too lazy to do that, so I'm going to tell you about a couple of onstage bloopers that happened fairly recently. The first is last November. I was involved in a play about the roller derby called Down and Derby with the New Colony, which was awesome. I learned how to roller skate for this show. I had never actually roller skated before in my life, so I went from zero to roller derby in a short amount of time. It was the 4th week of our 6-week run. We were in the last bout of the play, and the last bout was very stylized. It was we would skate and then we would freeze, and then we would skate and we would freeze, so that it would emphasize just how badly the one side was doing. For the first freeze in this bout, me and one of my teammates were supposed to be doing an elevator door block on the other team's jammer, which means I'm like leaning way far this way and she's leaning way far this way, so we sort of close like elevator doors and the jammer can't get through between us. So we skate our little bit, I go like this to freeze, and I'm trying to block this woman, and I realized that my left leg, which is carrying all of the weight, is not exactly in the position that it should be, and I can feel it starting to slide. You know, your foot's like this. I can feel it starting to slide backwards, and I'm trying so hard. I'm like, I'm only frozen for like 4 counts. Please, please, please just stay, and then I can skate and everything will be fine. No, the wheel hit exactly the wrong spot, and my foot kind of went from this position to like that position, curled under me, and I landed on it. I could feel the sound of something crack in my ankle, and like that was not good. But of course I think it's just like a tendon or just something moving, but it hurt really, really bad. And of course I'm this far from the audience because we were in a gymnasium skating around in a circle, and the audience was in the 4 corners. So I'm right in front of audience members that turned out to be the writer and his dad. I couldn't even get up fast enough to be able to make it to the next freeze. They were in the next freeze before I like realized what I was supposed to be doing. So I turned around and I crawled back to my spot on the bench, and I passed the guy who was playing our announcer, and he reached out his hand and grabbed mine and squeezed it really tight. I'm like, okay, somebody knows what's going on. We did have a signal that we could give to the stage manager, who was sitting like way up in this loft thing. We had a signal that we could give her if somebody really got hurt, but she was focused on the bout because it was very tech heavy and she wasn't really looking, and I'm like, I don't know that I'm that badly hurt, and I'm probably okay. I'll just go back to my spot on the bench. So I go back to my spot on the bench. There's a scene that happens where our team sort of splintered, and half of us want to leave and half of us want to stay, and I was of the half that wanted to leave, which means fortunately I was able to take off my skates and put on shoes. Then there's this big fight sequence between the 2 factions, and at one point me and one of my teammates are supposed to like clothesline another girl and then push her over and then start beating on her on the ground, and she crawls away and I grab her ankle and start biting it. Or sorry, she clotheslines us, we push her over, which means, you know, I had to sort of do one of those with my foot, and I'm screaming obscenities at the top of my lung during this whole thing. The woman who I'm beating up on doesn't realize that it's because my ankle is killing me. She thinks I'm just really into it. The fight gets broken up by like the police, and there's this police lineup thing, and then we all very dejectedly walk back across the gymnasium floor and get all of our stuff and leave. And then there's another scene, and then there's like the end of the show. I made it through all of that. I made it until it was appropriate for me to leave the stage after the fight sequence, after the police lineup, after going and gathering all my stuff, and I go back into the dressing room and I melted into a chair and just started sobbing because it hurt so bad. And other people are like, are you okay? Are you okay? And I'm like, I don't know, it really hurts, it really hurts. And they're like, well, you're not putting your skates back on to go back out for the curtain call. I had one line in that very last scene that turns into the curtain call, so I gave that line to somebody else. I was like, this is what I say, and this is when I say it, so please say it for me. Somebody that was taking care of me almost missed her entrance. I'm a weepy mess, and I'm so disappointed in myself that out of everybody in the cast, I'm the one who got injured to the point where I had to miss part of a performance. This killed me. The writer's dad was a doctor, so he came back and he took a look at my ankle really quick, and he's like, well, I don't think it's broken. It's probably just sprained, so just stay off of it and ice it, and you'll probably be okay. I'm like, all right. A couple of the other women in the show helped me down the stairs. One of them went and got my car, and then she drove me home. Stupid, stubborn me. I don't even know how to put my weight on somebody else to let them help me. We didn't have a show on Sunday, so that Sunday I did nothing. I think I made it from my bedroom to my couch, and that was about as far as I went. That Monday, I had to go into work because one of my colleagues was out, so I had to be there to cover the phone. Finally called my doctor because I'm like, I've got a show on Thursday night that I need to know if I'm going to be able to skate on Thursday night, if there's some magic thing that they can do that'll make my ankle all better. I get an appointment for after work. I go to my doctor. She sends me to a podiatrist. The podiatrist takes a look at it, takes a couple x-rays, and comes back and says, no, it's broken. It was a stellate fracture of a knobby bit on the outside of your ankle. It sort of went. Fortunately, all of the pieces were in the right place, so they basically just had to knit themselves back together, which just takes time. So they put me in one of those great big walking boots and said, "You're not going to be dancing anytime soon." And I said, "Well, what about skating? Can I skate?" They said no. I went back to the director and the producer and the stage manager and said, "It's broken, I'm not allowed to skate. Please let me still be involved in the show somehow." So the woman who had been playing our referee, she was understudying some of the larger roles. She and I met one night and I gave her like this PowerPoint presentation that's like, when this happens, I move from here to here, and when this happens, I move from here to there, and at this point you take your shoes off, and at this point you have to remember to take this when you leave the stage. She took over my role and I jumped in as the referee, and we finished out the run of the show. Then a couple months later, after my ankle's healed, I go to a preview of a show that I'm understudying. It was Night of the Iguana. I don't know if you're familiar with Night of the Iguana, but at one point Shannon and Maxine are fighting, and they had choreographed it so that he's supposed to throw a drink at her and then she throws a drink back at him. In this particular preview, when he went to throw the drink at her, the glass that he was holding hit the top of the seltzer bottle that was on the drink cart and shattered, so shards of glass went flying at Maxine instead of just water. She threw her drink back at him, and she kept going like this to try to get all of the water off of her. We as the audience can see her hand is turning redder and redder, and she's not flicking water onto the floor, she's flicking blood. One of the shards of glass sliced her hand. Turns out it was a very clean cut, but sliced her hand open. And she, like a trooper, finished the scene. It was a dinner scene, so fortunately there was a napkin on stage, so she went and she grabbed the napkin and she put it on her hand and did the entire rest of the act like this. The intermission was a little bit longer than usual while they bandaged her from about here to about there. And she came back out and she did the second act, and she didn't miss a performance the entire run. But it did occur to me at seeing that it was really disturbing to see somebody actually get hurt on stage in front of you. So to anybody that was in the audience the night that I broke my ankle on stage, I'm so sorry that you had to see that. I'll see you tomorrow for the toast. I love your faces.